Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to talk about why I most likely won't apply for staff again on the Hypixel network, as well as my talk about the time I did apply for staff, because I have applied once and I didn't get accepted. Obviously I'm not staff right now, nor have I ever been, but I'm going to start off by talking about that time I applied and then move on to why I don't think I'll apply again. So I applied about a year ago now, just over a year ago, and this was when I came back to Mega Walls after a very long break. If you look at my Mega Walls stats, I don't have too many, but most of them were before this current period of playing. Over the last 9 months, I've got nowhere near as many wins as I was getting back when I used to play. I've probably got about 150 since coming back, which is what it is. And I'd always wanted to be staff on Hypixel. It was just one of those things. It was such a prestigious role that I looked up to, and I was always too young, and so I did some staffing on servers that I was old enough to, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun experience. And I'd come back, and I was 17, 18? I would have been 17 turning 18 when I applied, so I was old enough, because you have to be 17 to apply for helper. And I was like, hey, there's no harm in writing up an application and seeing where it goes, and that's what I did. So I wrote up my application. It was quite long. It was about 2,500 words or something. I know there's people that do longer and shorter and get accepted, but I think that was pretty long for what it was. And I felt confident, and I submit the application. And I got a message like the next day saying I'd got through that stage, and that was cool. It made me really happy, and I was like, okay, maybe I actually do have a chance at becoming helper. And at this time, I really did want to be helper. And there are many stages in the process that I would be frowned upon for talking about, but I did quite well. And there's many stages, and I got through quite far. And then it's months and months later, probably about 7 months after I first did my application, that I finally found out that I was denied. And their reasoning was fair. I don't know that much about Hypixel outside of Mega Walls, unfortunately, and I think that was the main reason why I was rejected, from just lack of knowledge, mainly outside of Mega Walls. So fair enough. And that 7-month period, to me, was a really long time. Like, not because I was desperate to get helper. When I started writing the application, I honestly thought I'd get rejected 3 days later. And then 7 months later, I was still playing Hypixel, and that was sort of just dangling over me. And I just felt there was a lack of communication going on and stuff, and I feel that, there's only 5 of them working on the team, and I think they've admitted to having problems with how long it's taken them to get through applications, and they're starting now to make changes about how they go about applications so they can get through them quicker. But I applied when a bulk amount of people were also applying, and it took a while to get processed, and that was one of the main reasons I was put off of being helper in the first place. So I got rejected, and compared to if I was rejected 7 months sooner, I took it a lot lighter than I would have, because at that point I really didn't care anymore. Like, if I got accepted then, that would have been cool. It would have been almost a bonus though, on top of what was already going on in my life, I guess. Whereas when I applied, it would have been a bigger thing. And to say I don't want help anymore is true, but if someone were to come to me and say, hey, we're going to give you helper right now, I don't think I would turn it down. Even if I can't commit to it for a long time, I would still accept it for the time being until I go off to university. So, why would I not apply again? Well, talking about university, that is one of the main reasons. I'm going off in, 3 months? And I don't think that I would want to continue being helper at university. So if I was accepted all that time ago, I would have now been helper for about a year and 2 months before I resigned to go to university, and I thought that would have been acceptable. But, ooh, voice crack, yikes. I thought that would have been acceptable but now there's no point really in me pushing to get anywhere. So that's the first reason. The second reason is I just, having met a lot more staff members than I had when I first applied. They're all lovely people, and I admire how close they are to the community. I think how close they are to the community is probably the best perk of being helper. You sort of get to meet all these people from being helper, all these people that have dedicated a lot of time to the game and all have different experiences and play different games and come from different backgrounds. It sounds a lot of fun. But at the same time, seeing the way helpers are treated by the general population of players, it's quite depressing sometimes. Back when I was young, this role was, like, as I said earlier, a prestigious role. People looked up to helpers, and I just don't think that, unfortunately, most staff that I've met have that same level of respect. I think a lot more people in lobbies try and get away with trolling them and I just doing silly things that obviously get them muted like 30 seconds later for no apparent reason, and I wouldn't want to be a helper just to sort of sit there handing out mutes and just sort of telling people what they should or shouldn't be doing. I suppose that is a role of being a helper, but I wanted to be a helper to actually help people understand things on the server that took me a while to understand, not to be babysitting people. And I'm not saying that's all helpers are. There's so much to the role that we're probably unaware of, that I'm unaware of, and I think the people that apply for helper and do get the role are really respectable people. I think the amount of effort and time they put in is something that should honestly be rewarded. It shouldn't be a paid job, it is a volunteering role, but once you quit helper on the server, there's nothing I know of that you would get as like a thank you for being here. You just sort of keep the contacts you got while you were helper. Whereas, I don't know, maybe there's some in-game stuff that the devs could give you just to say thank you for doing what you've done. But another reason I would not apply for helper is I think the position this channel has put me in. There was a helper who was promoted recently, and there was a lot of outcry on Twitter, especially with Simon, about this helper cheating. And because he was already quite well known in his community, which was TNT Games, people were saying, hey, this guy flies around the map and he's kill aura and reach, he literally 6-blocks me every game. And now he's helper. And that burst out on Twitter, and Simon has been trying to defend this guy. I don't actually know which helper it is. And I just think, I'm not saying that I'm a big community member or anything, but in terms of Mega Walls, which is one of the most toxic games on Hypixel without doubt, I do think that some of the community members would be out to get me if I got helper, which is a sad thing, but I wouldn't want to be worrying about people who know too much about me, people who already have negative views on me, because when I applied, no one knew who I was, so there was nothing bad people could say about me. But now, at this point, I'd like to think there's nothing bad people can say about me, but I know there are certain people, because even though I try to be friends with everyone, I'm not friends with everyone in the Mega Walls community. I do have people who do not like me, who do not get on with me, and I just think that sometimes they would be out to get me a bit. And I suppose the final reason I wouldn't want helper is because, again, I play Mega Walls, and people would do what they do to the current helpers that play Mega Walls and expect them to get people banned, which it's quite clear helpers do not have much input on who gets banned, and I wouldn't want to deal with that constant pressure of trying to help the Mega Walls community, knowing that I can't deal with one of the biggest problems. I think that would slowly break me down as more and more and more people say, please can you get this guy banned, he's been hopping for days and days and nothing has happened, and knowing I can't do much about it, yeah, That's my main reasons as to why I wouldn't want to be staff on Hypixel at the moment. Maybe in the future I will, but I don't think I will, seeing as I'm going off to university. Tell me what you think. Have you ever applied for staff before? Have you been staff before? Perhaps are you staff now? Are you enjoying it? Yeah, do you have insider information that you can provide? Because this is obviously all from an outside perspective, and maybe things work differently to what I've said in the video. But anyway, that is all I had to say. Whenever I've talked about staffing before, people always ask why I don't just apply. They say if you want to really help the community, the best way to do it would be from a staff perspective, but I think I can help more from the perspective of my channel than from having a blue name. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.